It is 7:01. I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. I do have an added agenda item. I'd like to add as agenda item 9H, a discussion of sign placement out in front of Town Hall.
So moved.
There a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Selectman Musto, would you please lead us?
Flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All members of the Board of Selectmen are here and present. First now turn to our approval of the meeting minutes from the February 19th Board of Selectmen and Board of Education budget presentation and public hearing.
To approve the February 19th, 2025 Board of Selectmen and Board of Education budget presentation public hearing meeting minutes.
Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. February 20th, Board of Selectmen budget workshop.
The February 20th, 2025 Board of Selectmen budget workshop meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
On page 2. It's page 2. No, I'm sorry, page 3. Under public participation, there's Tom Buckley, Kingsport commented on the public attendance. What that means.
I think he commented on, I can't remember, I think it was the lack of people in the audience.
And that would be my recollection. Not said here. I think if we're going to comment what the public is saying, it would be neat. So that somebody's looking at this, not, and I just, what is that?
All right, so let's add lack of before public
Right.
attendance. Any other corrections? On the minutes as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Board of Selectmen regular meeting from February 20th.
To approve the February 20th, 2025 Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes.
Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any discussion or corrections?
So on page 6, number 12, the executive session came out of it to vote on the settlements. I know in the motion, we specifically said in accordance with to approve the settlements in accordance with the discussions that took place in executive session and the town attorney's recommendations. I don't know if it really matters to put that in there, but I remember we were very particularized and we wanted that in there on the motion.
I also note that you're not listed as having voted, but my recollection is that you were here for that.
I was here for that.
Okay, so we should add that as well.
Yeah, good catch. I didn't see that. Yeah, I was there for the adjournment, so I was obviously there for the for that vote.
Any other corrections? On the minutes as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? February 24th, Board of Selectmen budget workshop.
To approve the February 24th, 2025 Board of Selectmen Board budget workshop minutes.
Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Approved. February 27th, Board of Selectmen Budget Workshop.
I move to approve the February 27th, 2025 Board of Selectmen Budget Workshop.
Is there a second? Discussion or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Public participation. This is one of two opportunities for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. If you'd like to do so, please state your name and your address, and then state your business. I'm going to start by just wishing Mrs. Sherry a happy birthday. Nice of you to spend your day with us.
Would you like?
Wayne, you need to take her out.
No.
She paid night. Are there comments or for the board from members of the public? Is there anybody online who would like to address the Board of Selectmen? All right, we'll have another opportunity later in the meeting. Not listed but not included is the commemoration for National Women's History Month. We'll put that in the second March meeting, please. Thank you.
We want to table it.
Well, I'll include it in the next packet. We do have a resignation. Vic DeCapua has submitted his intention to step down as a member of the Veterans Commission, citing his health concerns. May I have a motion to accept his resignation?
To accept the resignation of Victor Capua from the Veterans Commission with regret.
Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. I'd just like to thank Vic for his many years of service to the community. He was a career police officer here. He was on the Warehouse Point Fire Commission for a long time and now on the Veterans Commission. So wish him well in the years ahead. All in favor of acceptance of the resignation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have a vacancy on the Veterans Commission now. And we have an applicant who is interested in doing it. Al Raymond, for those of you who don't know him, is sitting right here. Mr. Raymond, would you like to address the board? Okay. We're easing him into it.
Smart.
Al is retired career military and a career state police officer, right? And now works for the VA. And I'm excited to have him stepping forward. I think it's going to be a great addition to that group, and I think he'll bring some youth, some excitement, and some new ideas. So I'd ask for a motion to appoint Al as a member of the Veterans Commission.
To appoint Albert Raymond to the Veterans Commission as a regular member for a term expiring March 6, 2029.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you for stepping forward, and I think you'll be a great addition to the commission.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we need to get you sworn in. Next up is Dr. Richard Ross, who has submitted his interest in joining the Elderly Commission. Dr. Ross was before us just a couple of weeks ago. He's the interim librarian with the Warehouse Point Library. He's also here tonight. Dr. Ross, would you like to address us?
Not to say too much, but I guess I'm looking forward to doing this. I've been involved with the center there for. See how it goes. Not quite sure what I have to do, but I'm learning quickly, so.
Thank you for stepping forward.
By the way, I've been a resident of this town for 25 years. I don't know if people know that or not, but that may not be long, but for some people, I have been here.
If it's not generations, it doesn't count, I think. But
Look forward to doing this.
I heard a story once about a guy who had lived in Eastford for 90 of his 95 years, and his obituary said that we loved him like he was from here.
Yeah.
So I have a motion to appoint Richard Ross as a member of the Elderly Commission.
Appoint Richard Ross to the Elderly Commission as a regular member for a term expiring March 6, 2027.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the new guy?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir. You'll also need to get sworn in. New faces. I like it. New faces. Okay, we turn now to, actually, you know what, we're gonna have the budget on here. Let's see if there's anybody here who we can clear out quick. You guys are in it for the long haul, right?
Oh,
Okay. You're not in it for the long haul?
here as long as he tells me I have to be.
Okay, all right, then we'll just stick with the regular order.
Good tonight.
All right, so now we go back to the budget document. Presentations are done. Now we go line by line, make any changes that we want to make. All right, first up, Selectmen's line. Any changes in this budget? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Charter revision.
Mind if I take charter revision, ethics commission, and arts and culture all at the same time? Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Make a motion to accept the charter revision commission budget at 750, the ethics commission at 750, and the arts and culture commission at 5,000.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion on these. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board of Finance.
Motion to accept the Board of Finance budget at $72,075.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion here? Yep. $72,075. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Assessor.
You mind if we take the assessor and the Board of Assessment together?
I don't.
Anybody? Make a motion to accept the assessor budget at $226,002 and the Board of Assessment Commission budget at $2,925.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer. Oh, I'm sorry, tax collector. I missed tax collector. And printing and binding, right?
Yeah.
How much more?
2,500.
Sure.
Oh.
Oh,
Yet, no.
Have to make that change.
I'll go ahead and do that motion for-
357.
158. Do you want to make, do we need to make a motion for that one line to change it? Yeah,
So the new line would be 10,318.
10,318. Thank you. Make a motion to increase the tax collector printing and binding line by $2,500 for a total of $10,318.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to accept the tax collector budget at the new number of $158,357.
Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
to approve the capital improvement planning committee at $875.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Legal.
Move to approve the legal at $310,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Oh, that's. I'm trying to think if let's do these. Alan, you want to pick the ones you want to do in bulk?
You mean out of activities and fees?
Yeah. Or if,
Well, just do them all.
I was just gonna do it as one.
that's fine too.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want, I can list off all the things that are in there.
No, I wasn't sure if that was going to be a bulk approval or not.
So I'd make a motion to accept the activity fees and associations budget at 139,732.
Second for discussion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Which one do you?
Cemetery.
Cemetery Association. Their current revised budget is $25,000. They asked for 60. I recommended 30, and that's where the motion is at the moment.
I went into town clerk's office and looked at their last filing. That was 22 and 23. They have a lot of interest on their assets that they have. Although you cut it down to 30. I hope they have money that they can pull from that we're unaware of. That's very frustrating. I know they have endowments that they can't touch, they can only do certain things, but yeah, we certainly think they interest if they're running every year, they can pull off of that to do some of the work that needs to be done. And not seeing it in here, unless I missed it, and I don't think I did, not seeing it in here. I'm gonna approve it as what it is, because the cemeteries do need some work. I just want to keep it in mind because there's been some chatter of other non-town entities that are getting money and people are questioning it. So I just want to be fair to everybody. That if we do for one, we gotta do for everyone.
I would say what might be a bit different with the Cemetery Association versus whatever other entities you're referencing, they're maintaining town-owned property.
There actually are cemeteries.
Our cemetery.
Yeah.
You're right, I knew that, I forgot. Okay.
And they lost a revenue stream.
Right, from
St.
St.
Catherine's.
Catherine's.
St. Catherine's,
Right.
yeah. But they also save money because they don't have to do digging and stuff too. So let's be realistic, how much did they really lose,
Right.
in my opinion?
That's a valid point.
On it out there.
So do you want to leave cemetery at my recommendation of 30, or do you want to amend it?
I'll leave it, but I just, next year, whoever's sitting here, take a hard look at the finances and stuff to make sure that we're not.
Another thing, there, that organization that we were a part of, that, but this would be the second year, what was that?
You are
That's
Community Cares.
Cares, the very last line.
Right.
We haven't paid any of the 1,000 that we budgeted last year. They asked for 2.
Right.
We budgeted at 1,000 again, but I'm not paying it until somebody actually joins it.
Good, that was it, thanks.
So the motion on the table is to approve activities and fees as presented at 139,732. Motion has been made and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
IT.
Make a motion to approve the information technology budget at 414,350.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Town clerk.
Oops, sorry.
Just because it's me, the information technology, when that was combined and taken away from all the other departments and put together under one entity, we are saving a lot of money.
Yes.
in my opinion. We're saving a lot of money. And everything is being looked at so that town links together. That never happened before. So, I think the money that we invest in IT, especially going forward, is probably one of the best move that was ever made in this town, combining all of that. So,
Well, I'll add to that. I think it's getting to the point where we might need somebody just to, a position to take care of that and to Keith's point earlier, which we all made, I think, last year as well, is we need somebody that's really, I think, paying attention to all of this on a daily basis. It's getting bigger than a side job.
Yeah,
but,
No offense, Joe, but it's,
but that just shows.
I'm sure Joe wouldn't mind having a little bit taken off his plate.
But that just shows what our employees are willing to do. All of our departments are doing double duty and triple duty, even down to the two departments, the treasurer and the assessors, because we don't have individual helping out. So everybody's pitching in to do the right thing. I just don't want that to be so short by the public, but it's valuable.
and I just want to chime in. I voted no for that because I think it's an essential department, but that budget's gone up $60,000. It's up over 17% from last year. It's a huge budget right now. It's over $400,000. And I'm making the point that we need to make a change because those kinds of increases are not sustainable. And I do think we should have a discussion about whether or not a full-time IT person would be able to, or even, I mean, some sort of employee would be better, perhaps dedicated to that versus paying these increases year after year.
So just to, I mean, we're past this, but I'll just make this point. The consultation services where we have Entree come in and do the fancy IT stuff that they do, we pay $20,000 a year for that. A full-time employee with an IT pedigree is going to cost you six figures plus benefits. This is as lean as we're ever going to see this budget. And it's just the major driver here is the increase in purchase services. That's all of our software works.
Well, I
That's
think
the cloud-based stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just,
but
that is what it is.
But one of the issues is every department, we have 10 or whatever, 12 departments, they all choose whatever they need for software and they send in their order and we just pay whatever the increase is. And I think a professional that is able to go through the software and to discern whether or not we're optimizing our price and our software for those departments would be helpful. Because right now, each department just says, I need this, and we just roll in the cost. And so the costs are now up
I don't
to,
necessarily agree with that.
we're spending this tiny East Windsor is spending $300,000 a year on software. That's a
so
lot of money.
I would say that, yeah, somebody, it's, you know, it's not just, you know, the haggling over the price of it, which can be done. But it's also the other work that we do after the fact of who owns the data when we go to the cloud, you know, how's it protected? There's a lot of things that an IT professional could be focusing on that we don't. And I don't know if we could get it done with a part-timer. It's probably a unicorn, somebody with the experience to do that is willing to work it part-time. But I think that it needs more focus. I do.
It's a future former bank employee.
When I retire, I'm retired.
All right, well, that budget line is approved. Town clerk,
Move to approve the town clerk at $161,699.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Registrar of voters.
To approve the registrar of voters at $113,978.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Sarah, seconded by Alan. Any discussion?
I'm just minus 2.89% from the previous year.
I can tell.
The reduction was in the election workers, because this year we reclassed it to part-time and they've spent 37,000 out of 52,000. So Jay and I left it at 53 for next year. Thinking we'll have the same number of early election days as we do this year.
We counted them out. But one of those election days, actually, none of those election days will be presidential level, so they'll probably even be able, that, I think they have some cushion there anyway.
Yeah,
but-
I do too.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If you don't mind, I'd like to take planning and zoning appeals together.
Great.
Everybody good with that? So I'll make a motion to approve the planning department at 282, 341, planning and zoning commission at 4,950, zoning appeals board at 2,450.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Property insurance.
The insurance at $194,750.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do your commissions together?
Yep, I'm going to do inland wetlands, veterans, agriculture and conservation, and economic development, if nobody minds. That's inland wetlands at 2,325, veterans at 1,500, agricultural at 750, conservation at 825, and economic development commission at 1,800.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Police.
It's at $4,210,471.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Police Commission.
To approve the police commission at $1,725.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Emergency.
$1,096.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Building.
To approve building at $198,344.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communications, we should table until after or later in our agenda. There's an item that might change the number, so we need to, we should hold off on this one.
Make a motion that we table communication line until the end of the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public Works.
Make a motion to approve the public works line at 1,300,918.
Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Town property.
Make a motion that we accept town property line on $339,936.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second, yeah, I just realized I screwed up. I did not want to approve public works.
We can reconsider it,
Yeah.
but we got a motion on the table.
Yep, sure, yep.
So the motion has been made and seconded to approve town properties. Are you sure you didn't want to do sanitation?
No, it's it. Are you
Get rid of,
I think.
All right, so
Yeah,
motion's
okay,
been made and
yeah,
seconded on
yeah,
town
that's fine.
properties. All in favor of town properties?
I have questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so as far as what we were discussing earlier with Broadbrook Fire Department, taking that building out of the town's budget, but then budgeting for the community center. So we're budgeting what, $10,000 more than last year for that? Is that right?
Where are you getting that from?
From building repair? Is that where the line would be, or no, is that?
It's gonna be a brand new building. The repair
Right.
line is not gonna be substantial there, but we have, other buildings that we still are gonna be maintaining that
Mhm.
costs are going up.
Some would be in electricity, some would be in oil and heat. Some would be in water.
Mhm.
That's where the amounts would be that would be taken out for one building, but then inserted for the new building.
So once the, senior services moves out of there, then they'll take over, or fire department will take over that expense and we'll take it out of the.
That's part of their lease.
It's not coming out of this budget. It's being repurposed towards, operating a community center. We're trading one building for another.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further comments?
So, you know, a lot of this, we discussed this when Len made his presentation, but there's a lot of it in here, which is just sort of like, yeah, we're gonna add more money into it just in case. Like the hydrants are $500,000, up $38,000, just in case. And the vehicle repairs is up, is that the one that's $10,000? Vehicle maintenance, $5,000 just in case. And the building repair is $10,000 just in case. And streetlights are $10,000 just in case. And you know, and we should be looking for trying to be more efficient and trying to change our processes. Because these items are up, like this budget line item is up over 6.83% total. But a lot of these items are up over 10%. So, you know, how are we gonna get to a point where the people are looking for efficiencies if we just add in $5,000 or $10,000 or $38,000? And we just say, well, we're just gonna increase the budget without.
So let's take a look at, I'm gonna just pick a couple of the ones that you said offhand. Water and hydrants, at the time the budget was put together, we didn't have the renewal numbers for Connecticut Water, so those were best guesses. We do now have the renewal letter and those best guesses are pretty on point.
Well, let's put the actual on point number in there, not 500,000. Let's put the actual number in. I don't mind putting the number in. If it's gone up and they're gonna bill us, put the number in.
So, I wasn't finished talking.
Okay.
Electricity and streetlights, we explained that we're in a 4-year, contract. That contract expires on December 31st. So we don't have any idea what the second half of the year rate looks like. So we have no choice but to have that be a guess. That's factoring in what our costs are going to be based on the terms of the current contract and as reasonable as we can get on whatever is going to happen next. But we're sitting here on March 6th, talking about a contract that expires on December 31st in a volatile market. There's just no way of knowing what that's going to be.
Yeah, so budget for what we expect.
What we did.
Increase our efficiencies.
We have all of our buildings are operating on LED lights. That is as efficient as you're going to get. Is that true also of the street lights? So all of our lights are already on LED. We made that conversion over the last 10 years.
The streetlight actuals in the last year we had was 103,000. And that was a revised budget up to 103,670. That budget was revised up to 110. We don't have an actual end of year other than 103. It's contractual. And now it's up to 120.
You mean
So it's up
120 was last year's actuals? It's 123,000.
2023.
You're looking at electricity versus streetlights.
I'm sorry.
123.
Yeah, so, okay, so last was 123, now it's up to 140.
Right. And if you take our current year actuals, which is 68.4, that's through December. So times 2 gives you your projection as to what your current year is, which is a little bit high of the 130 number. So because we have the volatility with the open market cliff happening come January, that's why the estimate was that cost would be about $10,000 higher or 7% more than we're paying now.
Yeah, so I
Most
think,
people who have an electric bill have seen their electric bill go up by 7%.
and I think we shouldn't be padding the budget.
It's
not
Too
bad.
low this year.
There is
I
no
think
way to
the
know.
110 and 130 are gonna be too low when we get to the end of this year.
Well, if it's too low, then we,
We'll be coming back to do transfers. That's what
That's-
happens at the end.
that's what we're supposed to do. We budget for what we expect. Don't,
This is what we expect.
so like, well, I mean, every item here is up, like not every item, there's $10,000 increases in here.
Because cost of things have gone up.
The police department budget was hardly anything
They
increased.
also have all but three of their employees out of contract. They have.
Yeah. We have the money for the additional salaries in the line item. We just voted, we just looked at it. It's there.
No, it's in
No, it's in
contingency.
It's a contingency, right? It's not, it's.
So it's not in their police budget, that's why it looks so good.
No, it looks pretty good because they have a lot of expenses. They're not, their line items are not up $5,000 and $10,000
No, but they're
everywhere.
94% personnel, and of that, 95% of their personnel has no increase attached to it.
In a different line.
I just think that, we, if everything gets extrapolated out, need another five, like the repairs. Len came in and said, yeah, the cost for things for repairs are higher. We have to change our methodologies, our efficiencies. We have to try to do things a little bit different. We just can't, just can't keep increasing everything $5,000 and $10,000, $38,000 just because it might, because then you end up with a $1.339 million line item up 6.83%. And if you do that over 4 or 5 or 6 of these budgets in these departments, we're up like millions of dollars, not millions. We're up quite a bit of money. Anyway, I'm going to vote against this. I just think it's kind of like not showing good control over spending.
Anything else on town property? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Road improvements. Oh, I'm sorry, Al, did you want to go back to, or,
Nope, nope.
I'm right with sanitation. right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Public Works also.
Yes. Road improvements at $438,600.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Building committee.
Building committee at $1,250.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Sanitation. Selectman Baker.
Yeah. So yeah, as you guys all expected, I wanted to add 35,000 to the hazardous waste line. So I'll make a motion to add $35,000 to the hazardous waste line so we can do a hazardous waste pickup this year. We haven't done it since 2022. And I'm sure we have a lot around town that needs to be picked up. So I think it would be a good idea to pick it up before it ends up somewhere it's not supposed to be.
Motion has been made and seconded for discussion. You wouldn't rather do that out of the existing budget if we could?
Well, what kind of guarantee do I have?
85?
85 is not good enough. Let's see, he's already balking.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded.
I just want to say that I think the last time we did that was in 2021, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And I think it's necessary. I'm hearing a lot of residents will really want to use the service. So I think it's time that we offer that to our residents.
Just repeat what was said at when we discussed this during the presentation. The last time we did this, it filled the garage up. It was insane. And I remember seeing it, because I brought stuff there too, and it was a lot of bad stuff. Well, I don't know what people do with it otherwise, and it's good that we pick it up and get rid of it properly.
All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Make a motion to approve sanitation at the new number of
Oh,
$1,299,000.
I'm sorry. I bet a yes on that. Under 35. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Can you change that? Sorry.
Make a motion to approve sanitation at $1,299,252.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senior services.
Make a motion to approve senior services at $289,057.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Elderly Commission.
Approve the elderly commission at $750.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Social services.
To approve social services at $176,938.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Libraries.
Make a motion to approve the libraries at 351,686.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recreation.
Recreation at $371,945.
This is where she wanted to make that adjustment.
Yeah, for, it was another, how much?
2,800.
2,800 for summer concerts, and that's professional services?
It's under professional services. That line would need to go 42,457.
Yep,
You said what was it?
it's a formula error.
Put in a plus at the end.
Or it's 42,457.
Okay, so I need to amend my motion, but just to do the professional services line first, is that right?
Just rescind your motion, we'll just do that
Okay.
line item,
rescind
the
my
whole thing.
motion. Yes.
Do you withdraw your second?
I would probably second.
All right, Sarah.
To approve professional services at $42,457 in the recreation budget.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recreation at $370,745, is that right?
That's right.
Say that again.
374,745. Motion made by Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Marie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Historical Commission.
To approve the historical commission at $750.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Debt service.
Move to approve debt service at 981,183.
There a second? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Capital improvement.
Move to approve capital improvement at 1,250,000.
Is there a second? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to approve employee benefits at 3,740,234.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contingency.
Move to approve contingency at 257,000.
Is there a second? Discussion.
Now, this is where you see the money for all the employees out of contract. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and now we need to table the budget until later in the meeting.
Make a motion to table the budget until after 90.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I thought one of the registrars was going to be here. So we have a new lease agreement between the town and the state for the replacement of tabulator machines. It's in your packet as agenda item 9B. It is a 10-year lease between the town and the state with a one-time $1 payment from the town to the state for the lease. We're responsible for the maintenance, repair, and repair and servicing of the equipment.
That's a change.
What is?
That's a change.
We always have.
We always have.
They gave us the equipment the last time, but then we had to maintain
Oh, that's why it's in the fund.
And that will continue to be, not that it won't get done, but we'll continue to be responsible for the maintenance of it.
I'll make sure it gets done. Okay.
So, if there are no other questions or comments, I'd ask for a motion to approve the lease agreement between the town of East Windsor and the state of Connecticut and authorize my signature.
I had a question, but,
I'll do my best. Go ahead.
so they gave us 13 of these machines, I think it was, and we don't need 13. And these are like brand new technology. They said something about the machine has a screen that does all kinds of stuff on it. So it's like different than the other ones.
They are different than the other ones. They are slower than the other ones. They generate a paper trail.
Right.
The state allotted us 13 of them and won't let us take less than 13.
So I'm not worried about the new technology. I'm glad for that, but I wonder, do we even know what these things cost and what they're gonna repair? We're gonna spend do repairs over the next 10 years on much more sophisticated machines? Could it cost us like thousands of dollars for upgrades and per machine, or we don't even know?
I don't think I would
Every
describe
time they change the machine, they pay for it. We've always had to maintain, but
Right?
every time they change their system, they pay for it and we get the machines. And then we just have to maintain them.
I
I think
think,
he's asking about the ongoing maintenance once we have them.
But we have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I think we gotta just monitor this carefully. At some point, they're gonna keep increasing the complexity of these machines. And probably the repair costs and maintenance costs are gonna get up there and pretty high because they're not basic anymore. And if we have too many of them, like 13 of them that we don't need, I just don't want to see us get into a problem where we're repairing very expensive machines. So I'm gonna vote for this because we need to, because otherwise we don't get the machines. But
I'd say now we'll have spares.
That's what I was thinking too.
that's true.
Doesn't
For spare parts.
necessarily have to replace, repair every month.
Well, they may make us do it anyway, so, okay. Understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Will we be carrying insurance? Will be obtaining
Just follow
liability?
our lap.
I'm sure it does. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. We probably already have tabulators on our list. This will just be a newer version on our equipment list. I can check though.
We only have 4 tabulators on our list. Now you have to put 13.
Oh, we'll have plenty of spares.
And the only thing that's wrong with them in the past is if they needed new paper or the batteries died. Other than that, there have been 0 maintenance.
Media cards?
Buy those
Those are
every
some
year.
like by
No, we buy them every year.
Okay. Other questions or comments on this? Great. May I have a motion? Is there a motion on this one, Sally?
Not yet. Make a motion that we accept the contract between the state of Connecticut and Palm Beach Swim Jurors for the electronic voting equipment. Use agreement and authorize the first workman, sign it.
Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I'll turn it over to Chief Matt Carl for a discussion on the Emergency Management Performance Grant. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. You,
I'm fine.
what do you want to hear?
What does the grant do?
Okay, so I have for the next 3.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stand. The emergency management grant, it basically allows us to get reimbursement from the state 50 cents per person in your population, and it offsets the cost of emergency management program that we run. So typically, you have to follow certain things to get the grant. Local emergency operation plan has to be active. You have to have your certificates of training for your emergency management director and a handful of other things. And also you need a resolution from your board of selectmen or your town to sign that to be able to apply for and get reimbursement.
Okay. And do you have your 400 level yet?
I do not have my form.
Deputy, do you have your 400 level yet? Okay. When that opportunity comes up, can the 3 of us do that jointly?
Yeah, we're waiting for 300, Detective Roberts and Sergeant Knowles, and then all of us would take 400.
Perfect.
And they added an additional 2,200 on there.
There's a 2200 level now?
I believe there's an additional one now.
That sounds like it's gonna be several days. The 300 was 3 days.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. I think that's even another one, but I'm not sure. And I don't want to speak to you about that, because I'm not sure. We have all of the satisfaction to get that grant, except for you guys doing it.
Okay, so there is a resolution at the back of the packet. And this is a pro forma thing that we do every year. So Amy Lamb needs to certify that the board made the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen may enter into with and deliver to the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate, and further resolve that Jason Bowsett, as the first selectman of the town of East Windsor, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the East Windsor Board of Selectmen, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents. The undersigned further certifies that Jason Bowsett now holds the office of first selectman, and that he has held that office since November 19th, 2019. So I'd ask for a motion to adopt that resolution so that the town clerk can certify it.
Make that motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the selectmen to sign.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Chief. The next item is a discussion of the recommendation for the architect for the strategic assessment of the police department. The commission chairman, Mr. Thurs, is not here, but can you give us a rundown on, or maybe Mr. Sauerhofer can give us a rundown on who the recommended bidder is?
The recommended bidder out of the building committee was
Hume.
HS.
Envelope, please.
HS Harris. Hughes.
Yeah, it was Hume.
Hughes. Architect Associates. They were the little bidders on, out of the three that we got.
By half, right?
By half, their experience in police stations is 3 pages. They did the walkthrough, they were present at the walkthrough, they understand the situation where we're at. They met with the chief and the deputy and both of them are happy with it. The commission was fine after the recommendation of the chief. Lenny did do a few phone calls to other departments and they're the people that are doing the Windsor locks and they got rave reviews from the building inspector in Windsor locks.
Whoa.
Which means a lot. Plans were very well done. Changes were very minimal. They were very, very happy with the results over there as they're proceeding. So
I was at a CCM meeting today and I was talking with the town manager from Wilton. And he has used these people and he said they are lights out fantastic. And he's actually going through the process now of building a police department in that community using a different vendor and said he wished he had these guys. So that was anecdotally a nice ex parte reference.
I mean, with my experience in building, someone half the money sent me right into scared mode, almost abandoned them. But after calling their references and reading the documentation they supplied, they've done a lot of police work, a lot. Matter of fact, they did Windsor too, correct? So
they did Windsor and Windsor locks?
yeah, they're currently working on Windsor locks right now because it's not done.
And so the building commission recommended the awarding of the contract to Humes.
Yes.
I believe you both have, but Chief Carl, I know you spoke with them today, and they're satisfied with the AIA language.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so if this board authorizes the awarding of the bid to this company and authorizes my signature, we're there.
Yes, I have an email indicating that it was,
And the money is in the police budget.
No, the money is in public works.
Public Works.
Funding's already taken care of.
We have standing planning money for projects just like this that is kept in public works that is going to be used to fund this for the police department.
If the fee proposal, I'm just trying to understand the scope of the work. So big part of this is to look at the existing facility and do an evaluation. Kind of like the Broadbrook Fire Department did, right? They had someone come in and they looked at the current facility.
The RFP that was written and put out there is exactly, other than his specifics, exactly the same RFP. You're gonna get the exact same result that you got with the fire department.
So if the result is the current building doesn't meet the needs that they had in the Broadbrook Fire Department, then this won't pay for the next step, which is the architectural design services for or will it? Will it pay for it's not gonna pay for the next step. It's just for the first step to see whether or not the current facility to evaluate it,
It's a feasibility study.
right? Okay, and then okay,
And the
Thanks.
bid response was 34,000?
37,500.
Other questions or comments for either Chief Carl or Mr. Sauerhoff?
37. You can trust me.
I will.
I'm on film.
Don't mind.
Other questions or comments for either Chief Carl or Mr. Sauerhoff?
I know we have to do it because it's part of the procedure for this paperwork. Oh, we all know that. At some point.
Well, again, just like what Chief Bancroft is, it's first step in seeing where we need to be, and the next step would be us getting plans and design, and then ultimately cost. This will give us a estimate on what the cost would be if that building's feasible, or an estimate of cost on X amount of square foot police department, a new one.
so should we vote tonight? Can we vote tonight to accept the recommendation from the bid? The recommendation was from the Public Building
From the
Committee or Commission?
yes.
Commission,
Permanent building.
Permanent Building Commission, okay. What's the name of the company, the architectural company?
Humes, Humes.
Chikonski Humes Architects.
Why don't you make the motion? You have it. Oh, it's right there. Oh. I'd like to make a motion that we accept a bid recommendation from the Permanent Building Commission for Jasinski Homes Architects LLC as provided to us in our Board of Selectmen package.
And authorize my signature on the AIA.
And authorize the first selectman to sign the AIA document.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys. Chief Carl. You want to talk, well, I mean, we have our friends from Talent County here. You run the communications budget. Do you want to have them speak? Do you want to speak?
So this is about the EMD.
Yes.
So typically, you want to be trustful of anybody that uses too many words to answer a question. Liars lie specifically. However, in this scenario, I think it warrants that we have a discussion. If I could, please go first. Okay. So I think what you have to understand about the communications is what we're faced with. So what we've been doing the last several years is the East Windsor Police Department receives the 911. It's a PSAP center. 911s come into us, and our dispatchers, of which we have 6 that work 3 shifts, they take the 911 calls, and the nature of the 911 call, if it's police or fire or ambulance, if it's ambulance or fire, they transfer that call, that 911 call, to Talon County, and Talon County does all of the ambulance and the fire department dispatching coordination. And if it's ambulance related, the EMD is emergency medical dispatching. It's a protocol that they follow to answer questions dependent on the nature of the person that's calling 911 and what's going on. So typically, it's easy to think about somebody says for, their delivery, they'll go through a series of protocols, ask questions and help them with delivering a baby, CPR, wound care control, whatever they can do on the call. That's the EMD. We're required to do that. They're required to do that. We don't have the personnel to do that. TN has been doing it for years and they do it very, very well. So calls that come in aren't just police, they're not just fire, they're not just ambulance. More often than not, it's a combination of all that are needed to provide public safety to handle the situation. So what happens when we do that is our dispatchers will typically stay on the line and they're listening to the Talon County dispatchers ask the questions and decipher what kind of equipment or response that we're going to have. Basic life support, advanced life support for the ambulance. So our dispatchers are listening, but we dispatch our officers based off of the 911. So while they're asking questions, our officers are en route. So the model we have in East Windsor most times, we are R1 responders. That's the first responder, but we don't transport. Our fire department are R1 supplements. They supplement our response, or they go when they're needed, and they're typically dispatched through quite a few of these calls, but they don't transport either, right? So R2 and R5 are your basic transport, your ambulance for basic transport. R5 is your advanced transport. And if I get any of this wrong, please jump in and correct me. They're the transport. So pre-hospital care, it's most important to get the ambulance there quick. So we do get responders, fire department goes right away, and then the ambulance responds there. So we typically can get a dispatch out much quicker. So for TN to do their service, they've changed the model. We've talked about it over a couple of years, and they went from a per capita to a per call. They have overhead. Everybody's got increased budgets and things going on, and they have a set thing to meet. So they've phased in or used the model to phase in the last couple of years. This is the last year. And so you see it, we saw an increase from last year's budget to this year's budget that came out of the communication. So that being said, you divide up the calls between Broadbrook Fire, Warehouse Point Fire, and the ambulance based on the calls for service that they go to, and then they would pay a fee that TN has assessed to each call. That cost for the ambulance has increased. The ambulance, being a sort of a vendor, has come back to the town and said, we can't afford the cost of the dispatching, so we're going to push that over to the town. So basically, the fire department has been paying for their calls, and both fire departments, and then the ambulance. Now, there's a discussion and argument, rightfully so, that who's going to what calls, who's going to be charged. That's the cost of it, right? So that's been broken out, argued, disputed, however it is, but there is a cost to that. The ambulance, because their cost was much higher this year, has turned over the, usually when there's noise behind me, I don't like that, so I think it's a wind. So that's I'm gonna get it back.
Somebody's out there.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a cost to that. So ambulance reached out to another vendor. It's the North Central CMed. It's another organization that can do that EMD, that answering that question, coordination of the ambulances. They have a different model. That model is per population. They assess a $2.20 for the EMD CMed and another $1 per population. So for that service, for TN not to do that service for us, but CMed would do that service for us, it would be $35,744, which is a decrease from what TN is asking. However,
I'm sorry.
$35,744, if my math is correct.
Thank you.
And it is. So anyways, if you look at that model, that breaks up that public safety continuity from East Windsor to TN to CMed, and that's just too many partners. Ideally, you want one organization to do all of it. They should know where their fire departments are, where their ambulances are, where their police are going. But we don't have that ability. So I don't recommend that we have 3 organizations handling that for public safety. Again, there's a cost in public safety. There's 2 prongs to this. I'm addressing public safety. So it's communication budget, we've had a discussion on that. I do not recommend that model. I think for public safety, that doesn't work. So what has happened is we've had conversations with the fire department, representative chiefs in Talon County, And so although it's not a favorable model, Talon County has gone back and to keep that continuity with the idea that East Windsor would transfer the call to Talon County, they have very graciously had put together two models. Those two models are, I believe you guys have that documentation. So if you see that, and I don't want to exhaust it, but Model A is what we're currently doing, or option A is what we're currently doing now. With restructuring those calls from Warehouse Point to Broadbrook to the East Windsor ambulance. Again, that those numbers sometimes could be disputed, but however, depending on who's looking at those models, that cost originally that came in the 66,000 and change, whatever, it's now 49,426. So we're going to reference that in a second here. The second option of that, if we didn't want to do this with the idea that we could potentially go to CMed to save money, is that they have very graciously offered, and it's outside of what they typically do, to continue to do that EMDing for us in that CMed portion of what they do. That being said, that drives up the cost both of the fire departments a little bit, and they would match what CMed's model was, that $35,744, right? So they would offer to match that, to continue that. And again, this is the continuity of communications. This is not breaking it up. It's allowing us to still do what we do. The 911 would still come in. We still would transfer it to TN. TN would do all of that stuff that they were going to do. However, the East Windsor Police Department would dispatch the ambulance. So we would have to configure a radio tone, which I've talked to Marcus, our current communication. I've talked to Motorola, who's building our new radio system, if we choose to go that way. And basically we'd have to put a tone out and they would go out. So typically what would happen now is a 911 would come in. We would dispatch the ambulance when the police officers are dispatched. They would get out quicker and the call would still be transferred to TN. TN would do all the things they have to do. The ambulance would have to sign on, click over to their frequency or channel and get their EMD instructions, what was happening on scene from Talon County, right?
But the police and the ambulance would be dispatched.
They would go together. So, but I want to be clear about this. This isn't, if the deputy chief and I have the same goal, and that's to get services out the door. But he has to ask questions, and I don't. I beat him all day long. So it's not a fair representation to say that Talon County's delaying anything. They're required by law to do things that we aren't, because we aren't doing the EMD. If we had to do the EMD, I need more dispatchers. I would have to have 2 dispatchers on at all times. And if it got busy, we still would have delays. The delays are what's frustrating everybody in this whole process. It frustrates the fire department, frustrates the ambulance, it frustrates me, especially when they complain. So it is what it is. We try to limit that as best that we can, but it's a frustration. And the end goal is to get whoever is in crisis the need, right? So I want to be clear about how that happens. So what this model is that we would pay TN that amount of money for the 35,744, I think it's the match. The fire departments would have to pay more. But for us to do that, it's not just the radio. We don't have the system set up to dispatch and follow the ambulance through and help the ambulance. So reaching out to our current CAD, computer aided dispatch service, NextGen, I don't know if you guys have the quote, but NextGen has built out for us the necessary functions that we would need to dispatch the ambulance, and the ambulance to be able to see through our computer aided dispatch the information that our dispatchers will put in there. So for that, this build out this year, it's $14,060. That's for 9 devices, basically talking to coordinating with an ESO and an IM responding and the necessary things that would take to do that. That's a one-time cost this year. But if you add those two together, you're right at that $49,000, right? So you're right at that cost. In the years past this, the maintenance for that is about $810. Now, this is my research here to date. I don't know if there's an additional, I don't believe there is. The model that we're trying to go to is what other dispatch or other police departments do, except that they use CMed, they don't use TN. But I don't believe there's gonna be a radio cost. I still am looking into, if there's additional cost to the ambulance. But to our costs on our town side, it's the $14,000 this year, 800 in the future. But again, this is a two-pronged thing. There's cost that you guys have to be concerned with, and there's public safety that I'm concerned with. I'd probably be forgetting something, so trigger me to ask questions.
Just for clarification, the 35,744 for the CMed, who would actually be paying for that? The town?
The town, the ambulance has asked the town to pay that. That would be in the communication budget. I am forgetting one thing. I'm glad Sarah said something, and I saw your hand up, so I will not forget you. Okay, so what TN does do for the ambulance is they coordinate that ambulance. Right now, under our model, they make sure that the ambulance gets out. If there's a second ambulance that goes, they can also coordinate when our ambulance service does mutual aid, and they do a lot of mutual aid, over 2,000 calls of mutual aid. What that burden now would be is inside my dispatch center. Not only would it be the build out here, but my dispatchers would have to coordinate the ambulances going to the scenes. If they need an additional ambulance, find the ambulance. When other towns called in for mutual aid, typically, they call it TN now, I believe, and they could clear that up for me, but they would be calling East Windsor saying, say, for example, we do mutual aid in Granby. Granby would say, you know what, we need an ambulance at 123 Main Street. We would then dispatch them, send them to 123 Main Street. Granby would then tell them, get your information from TN, or if it's an EMD call or however that would work. So there's going to be an additional stress on the dispatch center. Our dispatchers aren't so busy that they can't do it. Windsor Locks does it, Granby does it, other ones. The difference with Windsor Locks and Granby is that they don't have an ambulance service that does as many calls as East Windsor.
But they're also dispatching all three disciplines.
But they're all, yes, they do. At least I know that Windsor Locks does all three. So there's that additional volume of calls coming into East Windsor, the dispatch center. There's a cost this year, although it's maintenance in the years follow is cheaper. But that's assuming that Talon County is going to agree to do that in the future. That EMD for us for that cost or that price. So that being said, public safety wise, I personally believe that the faster the ambulance gets out, the better off it is. Cost wise, that's up to you. But there's a balance either way. There's going to be more burden on East Windsor to do these things. And this year the cost is virtually the same.
So the cost, on page 1, option 1, the warehouse points is paying their fee and Broadbrook Fire Department is paying their fee.
Yes.
And currently East Windsor Ambulance is paying their fee, but they want the town to pay their fee.
No,
They've never paid it.
they've never paid it.
Town pays their fee. Okay.
Always.
And I don't want to get into details right now, but it looks like in the top, it says the ALS calls are part of that, and below it says the BLS calls are part of that, but I don't really want to get into all that right now. I'll ask the chief later about that. But it sounds like public safety wise, the current option is the best for public safety. Maybe, I don't know, did you say the second option will get the ambulance out faster, or the current one gets out faster?
No, the current one, there's some delays, and not always delays, but
Right.
the second option, again, if the ambulance is going to be dispatched off of the 911 that we get initially, and they're gonna go with the police officers, the ambulance is gonna go out sooner than, because Talon County's dispatching them after they hear what's going on.
Right.
The ambulance will go out sooner. They won't necessarily know everything they're going to, though. They won't necessarily know what they're walking into or driving into.
Right.
Sometimes their officers are there first. A lot of times the fire departments are there first. And to be clear, the town has always paid for the ambulance service. And there's a dispute last year and this year about how many calls the fire department has been carrying. In the past, the fire department was carrying, they believe the fire department was carrying additional ambulance calls. So there's where some of the dispute is.
Right.
And I don't necessarily dispute that. But you can talk all day on that. That's a whole separate issue.
Yeah. So chief, I mean, I don't want to, other people want to talk to you.
No, absolutely.
But it seems to me that if we change the process to try to save $15,000, which is actually gonna cost us $15,000 this year, but in the future, we risk that there's gonna be somebody's gonna, so there's gotta be a gap somewhere on a call, and it's working. And I would just hate to think that, that your dispatchers would have a lot of stuff going on at some time, or this is not their normal stuff that they do every day, and I'm just worried that we're gonna make a change and somebody's gonna get hurt because we're trying to save $14,000 or $15,000. I mean, the expenses are what they are, and maybe in the future, things are gonna have to change. But for this next year, personally, I wouldn't want to make a change to a process if public safety is the priority. And like you're saying, even though it might be quicker, there's more information that's gonna get out there to the ambulance potentially by going through the process. So I personally don't hear anything that's compelling to say, let's do the second option. Appreciate that you went through the analysis, because it's just a cost saving option primarily. And the amount of money we're saving is $14,000 or $15,000 a year, risking that. And we have like thousands of calls, both between the fire department and the ambulance. So we're gonna save, $10 a call or $5 a call by doing it like not a different way. That might be something. Whenever you make a change, my mind, there's always a risk that something's gonna happen. And then you have to rebuild the process to build out those errors that could happen. I don't know why we want to take that chance personally.
Totally understand. Totally understand.
Just for clarification, on the first option, it says warehouse point 21,662, Broadbrook 20,306. I believe you said in option 2, that's going to increase.
No,
But we don't have an increase.
there's a dispute about those numbers. That option, the fire department still pay that, that amount, but instead of the 49,000,
It's going to be 35.
it'll be 35 cents, but then we have to add the software,
The software.
Which is
I
that
get
one-time cost.
which is the one thing.
Then I must have misunderstood, because I thought you said the warehouse point,
Probably did.
their cost was going to go up and Broadbrook's cost was going to go up, but they're not going up.
It went up from last year. It went up from the original proposal that we had a couple months ago. It
Because
probably
of that
did.
same conversion.
The same conversion.
Yes. And then I might have thrown that in as some misinformation to make sure you guys are paying attention.
Okay, so, no, I'm just going to speak as an individual, and not as the board. And no disrespect, and it's not meaning to be disrespectful. You're certainly entitled to your opinion. But someone that has frequent private miles with the ambulance association.
Yeah.
I prefer as a resident to know that there's an ambulance coming as soon as I make that phone call. Instead of waiting till I explain to this person what's happening, and then I have to now explain the same thing to the next person as to what's happening. Now I don't have to worry that he's not gonna die while I'm on the second call, because I know there's gonna be somebody coming to help. And if you ask anyone that lives on my street that also have frequent flyer miles, nothing is worse than to sit there being on the phone and knowing that nobody has come yet as somebody's gas been to the last breath. So, I like option 2. That's just me.
And everybody's got an opinion. It's your perspective of what you look at. I just wanted to be clear. That's why I wanted to spend time explaining the process. I also want to say that my dispatchers are going to have to learn how to do what TN's been doing for a while. Do I think that they're capable of doing it? I absolutely do. There's going to be a learning curve. They're going to have to find a mutually dispatch ambulances. We're going to have to put procedures in place to do that. But I can see it both ways, and like I said, I'm not here to argue the cost, that we could do that all day long. I'm here to tell you what we're capable of, what the model is, what the public safety is. The only thing I do insist on is that we stay with the end in some fashion. We do not bifurcate or put 3 people in the mix. That's not what I would recommend. Sarah?
Yes, just for clarification, I wasn't quite finished earlier. The option A, just so I'm understanding, warehouse point would pay the 21,662, Broadbrook Fire would pay 20,306, and the ambulance of 49,426 is paid for out of the communications line by the town as it's always been.
Yes, and I
Okay.
manage the communication line.
Right.
That's TN, it's also the radio system,
Mhm.
and that's where you get that cost in there.
And option B, the fire departments would each pay, and then the communications line would also pay the 35,744, but then you might have to hire additional staff and need
If they
additional
were to do the
resources.
EMD. He's not
Okay.
suggesting to do the EMD, he's just suggesting to do the intake dispatching and maintain Talon County as doing the EMD service. That's what that 35,000 is for.
Okay, and then there would be an additional 14,000, the one-time cost to complete that
Yeah,
as
which we
well?
would try and do, I mean, you saw we still have
Yeah.
about that in our contingency line. We would try and cover the equipment upgrade costs in the current fiscal year, not even put it in the budget.
So would additional resources need to occur though from the PD for anything?
That's what he did, just laid out.
Okay,
So this is what I have as far as software goes from next gen. That's to make it work. I talked to the radio system and I'm still doing my due diligence. I don't think there's an additional cost. There might be one for the ambulance on the ambulance side, that are still running down. But again, you're correct in one, that our dispatchers will be doing things they're not normally doing. They will be fine. Do I think that, we can absorb those calls or, we're not, the dispatch center, my dispatch center is not so busy that they're, this is not Manchester, but they do that, but they'll have to learn. And there will be, to Selectmen Aguilar's point, there's going to be a learning curve and there's some things that we're going to have to do that to get through the year.
mhm,
But like I said, I'm only here to be fully honest about public safety.
thank you.
I have two questions. One, and maybe this is probably directed to the chief or TN, the ambulance chief. How many calls are we passing? Like, when our ambulances are all busy, are we passing the mutual aid? And I'm assuming at this point in time, TN just knows how to manage that, right? And then there's a list or the priority ones that they're going to. Do we know how often that's happening?
TN manages it very well, but and I know the answer, but I'm not going to take responsibility for that. I'm going to pass it on to these folks.
Roughly, we pass about 3 or 4 calls a month. We manage our calls really well. Run 3 ambulances during the time, up to 4 ambulances. So we're able to cover our calls, but there are times that all 4 ambulances will go out on, call in town and 3 calls of mutual aid, and then we have to wait for a mutual aid ambulance to come in. That's just happens. We live in the area where mutual aid, we're always helping out everyone, and they're also helping us out. We're very fortunate that we have that capability. There's areas in the state that wait almost 45, 50 minutes or more for an ambulance. That usually never happens here. The most I've ever seen was probably 20, 25 minutes. That was maybe once when it was a major incident. Everyone was out.
Yeah, you're kind of bleeding into my second question, but I wanted to finish the first question. So if we did switch over, do you see difficulties with, I guess we would just mirror the TN capability at this point in time for hunting down a mutual aid ambulance?
Yeah, so we would have to put a procedure in place that the dispatchers would have to learn. So for example, and I'm just going to put this up. If our ambulance wasn't available, we needed additional ambulances, our dispatch center would have to first call as Enfield, say, and I'm making this up, Enfield, and then if Windsor Locks was available, they would have to basically hunt those things down. A procedure would have to be, and we'd also tell our mutual aid partners that if you want a mutual aid ambulance, they would change their procedures to call East Windsor, not TN, and we would have to run those things down. And our ambulance goes pretty wide, and Chief does a great job of telling us know what zip codes he goes to, but it's a pretty wide net. And Town County has a system that does that.
Do we have I'm sure we do track, like, what's our kind of high-low average response time for the ambulance at this point in time? Like what from the time it's toned out to the time that ambulance shows up, and do we get complaints?
Well, you know what, we do a very good job, and I'll tell you why we do a very good job. Our fire departments are on supplements, and they go out. They're sometimes often at scenes quicker than we are. recently Broadbrook had one where they had to put an AED on somebody and they got there first and put an AED on somebody and saved their life. And we weren't too far behind, but the police are the first responders. We're on the road, all hours, of the day, but there's 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6. It depends on when we can get there. So it's a combination of everybody, but the only people that can transport are the ambulances. And depending on where they are, I mean, we don't track it right now, what the time is, but the ambulance could be out of town. They could be on a mutual aid. They could be doing something else, which would require us to go, to another jurisdiction. And I personally, in this last year, waited on Troutman Road quite a bit of time for an Enfield ambulance to get that all worked out. But Chief Barton was with me. We were just waiting for the ambulance the whole time, and his staff was handling the situation. But I mean, I don't have that statistic because we're not responsible right now for tracking the ambulance to get there.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get to some sort of data on, I mean, to me, it is compelling if we can move up the ambulance in the chain, so they're heading out, as soon as it's being toned out. But are we solving a minor problem or are we solving a big problem by doing that? And I don't know if we know that.
All I can report is that typically our dispatch goes out quicker than TN because we have to transfer it. They have to ask questions and our folks can respond right away. And then what happens while our officers are en route, they're eavesdropping on the TN conversations and then giving our officers updates while they're going.
But if if there's no ambulance available, your dispatcher is going to have to find an ambulance.
Yes,
So they're going to have to start making calls
yes,
to get an ambulance.
yes,
Whereas right now that's handled
yes,
through the current process.
yes,
Right.
that's true.
So, I mean, it's conceivable under the potential new model that process would start sooner, right? I mean, because if you're toning out the ambulance immediately when the police department get toned out, and immediately, I mean, you guys live next door to each other, there's no ambulances, you're on that hunt maybe
Right.
that much quicker.
Right. And we typically schedule 2 dispatchers, but with leave time and time off and stuff like that, we'll go down to 1. TN never goes down to 1. They have staff that can do this, so you gotta understand it. You can't, there's always gonna be delays that are unanticipated. Our dispatchers can be busy doing something.
Understood.
Just recently got a motor vehicle crash and like over 20 911s came in on that crash. It literally gets like, are you involved in a crash? Where's your location about a crash? You almost like are hanging up on these people or putting them on hold. And so you can get very, very busy. And if you got to find an ambulance for that, it's an additional thing that we do that are put on there. I mean, do I think they could do it? Yeah, I do. I think they could do it. And, certainly, the officers are going, but, it's going to be a delay in toning out an ambulance if we don't have an ambulance. Right. So.
But going back to you have one dispatcher on at a time?
No, it will go down to 1. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I keep throwing the wrench in the works for option 2, but if they're on the phone dispatching the ambulance and another call's coming in, that other call's gonna have to wait,
Yeah,
right?
so we typically it's the radio, it's the 911, and then it's a routine line.
Right,
Sometimes if a storm comes through and rips the town up in 15 minutes, I mean, calls are waiting anyway. There's nothing even town and county would have to admit that there's times that they just get a lot of work.
right.
Right, if they have large things that go on, they just have more personnel on there, so you can't avoid everything, but there could potentially, be that.
So just going back to Marie's point, which I really appreciate, if somebody calls in and says, I need an ambulance, currently right now, they say, well, what's going on? How old's the person, that kind of stuff, where are they located, what are their symptoms, what are their signs, and is that what they do? And then the kind of discussion.
So our dispatchers will get the 911, where's your emergency? And
Right.
they're trying to ascertain what the issue is. And like I said before, not everything is just one, I only need the police, I know the answer.
So I meant the TN call.
Oh, yeah, so once we
Yeah.
do it, we're trying to figure out what's going on, like what's going on there, whatever the case is. Sometimes if it's somebody's been hurt or whatever case, we want to make sure there's no weapons there.
Right,
But after that, our dispatchers are kicking that out as fast as they can. Town and county picks up, they pick up, they see it comes from us, hopefully, and then they say, 911, what's your emergency? Then they're answering all those questions. We're eavesdropping and pushing the information.
and how long does it take to add, how long does it take the process of asking the questions before they decide? I assume they decide, Are we gonna send out a ALS, a BLS, what's going on? How long is that process of the assessment that's being made at the TN side on the phone before they say, get the ambulance out?
I'll yield that to my partner, Tina, if they want to.
So when we receive a call from East Windsor PD, during the daytime from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, we have 3 dispatchers that are working. What typically happens, and we just went through this exercise with the chief, recently is looking at our dispatching time averages for cardiac arrest, for example. What occurs in our centers, we process that call. It arrives, we see it comes from East Windsor, we open up the CAD system, we start to populate the information in the CAD. If it is a critical call, difficulty breathing, chest pain, cardiac arrest, seizures, unresponsive person, the other dispatchers in the room are hearing those keywords. They're taking over the dispatching process for the ambulance. So from the time that we receive a call, enter all of the information that needs to be entered into CAD to get them out. And there's information that needs to be entered. Our average time for a cardiac arrest is 1 minute and 33 seconds. We're allowed 2 minutes to perform EMD and get the ambulance dispatched. We are averaging, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, we tallied it up. The 5 cardiac arrest call that you had recently, 1 minute and 33 seconds was our average time for the call was created in CAD. And you have to bear in mind, you have to put information in, you have to verify the address. We have to verify the callback number, most importantly, in the event that we get disconnected from the call. There's some information that has to occur there. So there's some validating that needs to occur to make sure we're getting the right dispatch and sending the appropriate response. 1 minute and 33 seconds is our average time. Our goal is really 64 seconds to get any call for service from the time that we create the call in CAD to the time that it's dispatched, whether it's ambulance or fire. And again, the thing that's a little different in our model is we have 3 people sitting in the room during the day. We have 2 people at night. And we have the ability to process that information and somebody to take over the process and push the call. And manage other things that are coming. It's a little different. I agree with Chief Carl. East Windsor PD is perfectly capable of managing these things. There's a learning curve, and as we mentioned to the chief, if they select the model to move to the EMD side and take over the dispatching of the ambulance, we would do everything we can to make sure that that's a smooth transition.
But Chief, if the person calls in on our dispatcher, Model 2, and our dispatcher dispatches the ambulance, they still have to take some data down about phone numbers, address, some basic stuff.
They're typically doing that anyways, but
Right.
what he just described is perfect. And they're very set up for that.
And the EMD part of it, there's a handoff anyway to the EMD side of it, but the ambulance is out. I mean, the ambulance has gone out maybe 30 seconds faster or a minute faster. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right?
So what happens now is all 911 calls go into the East Windsor Police Department. They ask, 911, what's your emergency?
Right.
And if it is a circumstance where you have a shortness of breath or a difficulty breathing or whatever the case, then they transfer that to Talon County.
Yep.
Talon County then intakes that information that Mr. Rascott was just talking about, and then they dispatch the ambulance. What Chief Carl is talking about is that same 911 call comes into our PSAP, as is currently the case. And they say, you know what, it's a shortness of breath. Then the dispatcher is dispatching the ambulance and then turning the EMD function over to Talon County so they can do their intake stuff. So the ambulance gets out quicker under Model 2.
Well, it's still going to take a little bit it's going to take seconds,
Yes,
for our dispatcher to hear it and to go through that process.
Yes,
And
but they have to hear it one time instead of 2.
yeah, I just think that to me, all that data they're gathering is like really useful for the responder, the ambulance to go out and know what's going on, what they're heading out to the scene to. Plus they probably, like I said, you probably know BLS or ALS has to go and whether it's going to be paramedic on scene or whether or not there's not. I know this is so time sensitive. Everything here is life-saving when it's really serious. It's so time sensitive. I get Marie's point, but I would just hate to think that there's a gap in where you just have somebody suffers because of that. Leave well enough alone. If it's not broken, don't fix it unless just for the money savings. I guess that's the point I said before.
I'll just take the prerogative I want to thank Mr. Milix and Mr. Rascott for taking the time to put these presentations together. My concern is the public safety side and is also the cost side and the reason to have this conversation and to even have the conversation around switching over to CMed is it was entirely cost driven. There's no reflection on dissatisfaction with service in any way. I think they've given us two workable solutions here. Option A is we pay $49,000 a year and maintain effectively the status quo with what is happening now, right, Chief?
Yes.
Option B is the East Windsor Police Department handles the dispatch. We have a one-time $14,000 cost to get the software in place, and then we maintain the relationship with TN for EMD response. Okay, and your recommendation is? Not a trick question.
Leave it to faith.
You know, there's. Good question. There's a, select reality, right, there's a lot of work that East Windsor has to do. We would be learning something that we have not done in the past. There's a learning curve. We would beat TN on the ambulance. The ambulance would go up quicker. But there's data to Doug's point, there's data that we would now have to enter for the ambulance to get in that. I'm not going to tell you that there are going to still be some delays with our dispatch center, because sometimes as busy as the officers can be. You know, obviously they would be mindful of what's going on in there. Public safety wise, we beat them. Cost wise, I don't know if it's worth it. Who knows? See, I don't know what I don't know. You know.
Cost wise, through the town, we can control the cost from year to year. Right now, we have no control over what TN is doing, and you're doing a good job. I'm not saying you're not, but we have no control. We went from $8,000 up to $20,000, $40,000, $40,000, $80,000 in maybe 5 years.
I would say that that's probably leveled out, and you won't see those huge increases because
How
they
does anyone sitting in this position know that next year that this 35,000 is not going to be 44 and they're not going to be 25?
you know,
You don't know.
no, because it's volume based. You know, we have an aging population, more people moving to town. You know, over 55 come in, they hit the ambulance, you're gonna have more calls.
You know, and then there's also the concern that I have that if one of these other towns with Talon County decides to drop out, then they still have to pay their 5 people and they still have to pay for their equipment. Ours is automatically going to go up when you do the math. It's just the nature of the beast. And with technology and stuff changing, and we have this other service that hasn't been available and it's available now. My concern sitting in this position is, you know, the cost of the taxpayer long term. So if we decide to go, say we decide to go with option 2, are you able to do that in a turnaround time for this budget, or are we into another budget cycle before it's?
No, so what would happen is we would have to come up with the money to be able to get the systems in place. I contacted Next Gen. Next Gen would have to enter, basically put all this in place. We would have a training module. Dispatchers would have to go through the training. The chief and the ambulance would have to make sure that they understood what was happening on their tablets. We would work out the bugs for that, and we'd have to go live on July 1.
I think her question is around the funding for the conversion. And if we were to get a PO, we could do that in current year dollars.
Oh, I'm not worried about the funding. I'm more worried about whether or not they can deliver the product that we need. That's my question.
Next Gen?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately for the $14,000, you just click a button.
Oh.
I'll click the button for 12.
Yeah, they just click a button, turns on our CAD set up to dispatch fire, and the CAD system can dispatch fire, ambulance, and other functions. It's whether the modules are in place. The actual dispatching is much more difficult. There's toning, there's all kinds of other things that come into play. Each dispatch thing is complicated. And again, like, you know, so Talon County, you know, our dispatchers multitask. They do motor vehicle stuff. When a motor vehicle stops happening, they're doing they're checking NCIC registration, they're contacting other agencies, they're coordinating, you know, maybe a dog, whatever cases. They're used to that. part of it, so it's just more multitasking and added on there, it's just different functions.
Can I suggest though, for tonight, for the budget, that we just budget the 49,426, whether or not we end up doing it at that amount, option one, or we need the 35 plus the 14, it's still budgeted. To make a policy decision right now at a budget discussion over something so important, hearing this information, it seems that, we shouldn't be, they shouldn't be connected as much as, let's have more discussion about this safety issue and give it enough thought so we make a good decision, but just budget. I'm just going to suggest we just budget that amount and it'll cover it either way. And then we can move on with the vote rather than cutting $15,000 off of that just without, and making a policy decision tonight. But I just think it wouldn't serve the community well just to decide for us, because we need to have a discussion just about the public safety aspects of this without talking so much about the budget piece.
We are
Might be-
talking about the public safety aspect of it.
Yeah, but I mean,
What piece of this is missing that you're not clear about?
I think we're making we're doing a budget thing tonight, and there's a lot of emphasis on saving $14,000 and change. And I don't know. I think we should budget the full amount and then have the public come in. Let's have some more public feedback and see what people think too. I just think we're, I would not want to make a policy decision on this very important, ambulance dispatch issue in the 30 minutes that we've had tonight to discuss it without, I'd like to hear more from the public. That's what we're doing. We're going to say one option A or option B, and then because we need to plug a number into the budget. Why don't we just plug in the full amount in the budget and then have a discussion and a vote another night when the public also can come and talk about it. That's my view.
Can I ask a question of the TN guys?
Yeah, please.
So, I mean,
So
obviously,
before you do, gentlemen, you want to introduce yourselves just so people are familiar with who's who at the zoo?
I don't know, it's an executive director.
so, I think it's pretty clear we've been talking about you guys for a long time now. And from our standpoint, like, at least I'll talk about myself, like, it's kind of every year over the last few years, we've just seen increase after increase after increase and not understanding the context behind it, where it's going. And that's why we were concerned. And that's why I think we're where we're at today is like, just like, how do we get control of this and where's it going to go? Can you give me a little bit of context about, I understand you're going, went from one model to another, but what are the projected costs over the next 5 years? Are we going to see, 5%, 10%, 1%, none, flat?
Yeah, the quick topside version is, since our inception since 1954, our fees were based on strictly population. And it came to the point where the board felt that it was time to take a look at how assessing our member agencies. And it was discovered quickly that population is a very poor indicator of call volume due to certain demographic. So the board of directors made a recommendation to the county, emergency service head that we just simply go to a formula, well, not even a formula, a pay per call. So what we do is we take our budgetary needs every single year, and we basically divide that by the amount of calls from the previous year, and that comes up to a dollar figure per call. That's what each community ends up being billed. Once we did that and we start plugging some numbers in 3.5 years ago, we figured out very quickly that the agencies and municipalities that had a higher call volume than others were going to see a tremendous one-shot increase. So the decision was made then, listen, let's do a 3-year phase in just to get to the end. Let's do this over a 3-year phase instead of one big chunk at one time. And that's what ends up happening. So over the last 3 years, you saw, incremental increases only because that was the impetus to get to where we needed to be as far as everybody paying equally for the calls that they're being dispatched to. So we're at the end of this is the last year of the implementation. The only increases that you're going to see is as our budgetary needs increase, just like the municipalities, you're, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the case may be. Then those are the only increases that we can generally forecast, just like you guys are doing right here, trying to look in the future a little bit. That's all we can do. There's no more, of these, double digit increases that are coming. It's only based on our budgetary needs from the municipalities, taking into account our state funding. Those are the only two income sources that we have. We have a fund of monetary that comes in from the state telecommunications fund, and we have our municipalities that pay into the organization. That's really the only two major income sources that we have.
I don't want to correct it, but there's actually 3.
Well, it's shared service.
So we do shared services with other dispatch centers in the state of Connecticut. We share the back end of our computer-aided dispatching platform that the chief's talking about with Newtown, Connecticut. We share with Atlantic. We just signed a CAD sharing agreement with Valley Shore Emergency Communications down at in Westbrook. We have a 5th that we're providing a quote to now. That revenue, I heard a comment about, we have technological needs that we need to pay for. We have radio consoles, we have servers, we have CAD, we have email, we have messaging gateways. We haven't assessed any of those fees to pay for any of that to any of our member organizations. In the last 10 years, we've been able to budget for that appropriately. But now with the shared services agreements that we have, the revenue that comes in for that is set aside to pay for those technological advancements that no matter what, we have to pay for regardless thereof. But now we get to leverage the state of Connecticut capital expense grant as a regional dispatch center. So all of the technology that we have is being refreshed at no cost for it.
I look at that as a fundamental word utilization. That doesn't mean neutralize our long-term IT expenses. We would have to pay for it anyway, but now we're able to spread that amongst 5 other agencies.
That was exactly going to be my next question, was what kind of technological debt you guys have, because as you well probably know, we're going to take a big bite, to replace our whole radio system, which we didn't, take care of. So now we got to do the whole thing. And I'm just thinking if it's going to happen to you guys too, then that's another big jump.
July 1st, for example, we have our budget, not necessarily going to spend, but cash available to us is $660,000 that we gained through revenue sharing, plus the addition of cents dollar cost match from the state of Connecticut.
So because we're a regional center, we are able to purchase through a program of mitigation. Capital purchase is met with 50-cent match on the dollar for us. So, Doug explained, we have $300,000 that we've amassed in the shared services account to refresh all of our IT infrastructure. We actually have 600 because the state's going to give us another 3 to match that. Because we're a regional center, we can take advantage of those monetary benefits.
Okay, so plus members, we're only going to see a spike potentially if somebody else leaves.
Well, Doug and I have had numerous conversations about that. If something like that happens, then I should probably point out publicly, since 1954, we will gain members. But we would have to take a hard look at how we would distribute that loss of income. It could be operationally, it could be a multitude of things. Or I can tell you that if somebody did leave, our immediate answer is not to increase service fees to our member agencies, because that's how you start the domino effect occurring potentially. And both of us have been around long enough where we've seen, we have a history and have seen other regional centers that have had extreme financial difficulty by utilizing that model. So you learn from other people as you go forward. Would there be an increase? Probably. Would it be the whole increase that was we're lost? It absolutely would not. We'd have to start look inwards towards the operation, how we can gain efficiency.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Can I just say one thing too? So, first, look, you asked me a question about what my recommendation was, and I paused for a while and I gave you a chicken scratch answer. So I'm going to answer it. All right. This is the best I can say. When I started this, I was in this category of unconscious incompetence. I didn't know anything about when it comes to that dispatching side of it. Moved over to conscious incompetence. I was aware of what I didn't know. Then I moved into conscious competence. We have to think about it. What you want to be is unconscious, competent, but you want to be conscious about what you're doing, but unconscious, right? So it's like driving home. Has everyone ever driven home, not remember how you got there when you weren't caught? Right, go
Do I
ahead.
have to answer?
It's just autopilot. It's right, it's unconscious competence, right? That's where you want to be. My dispatchers are gonna have to make that whole in the next 4 months to get there, to be where these guys are already, right? Can we do it? Yes, my dispatchers can do it. But I'm also gonna be humble enough to tell you that as soon as I think that we can't, if we get into this model next year, or there's delays, whatever, I won't put public safety at jeopardy, and I would come back and say, this is not working. We have to figure something out. I believe if we did that, our relationship with Talon County, and I don't only speak for one side of it, it's fantastic. It's invaluable, and it should not ever be broken. The fire department trusts them, they do a great job. We work on individual delays that happen anytime, even in the best days. Blue sky days, we're gonna have problems. We had problems with radios yesterday. Doug was on the phone with me in a three-way with Mike, who are our vendor with Marcus, get the thing done. That relationship is tremendous. And so the decision for this is public safety wise, the ambulance, we can beat TN because we've not handcuffed the same things they are. But that's my answer. Public safety, I think we beat them. But we're gonna have to do this whole learning curve to get there.
Well, just at the risk of putting this whole thing to bed, I appreciate Collin County taking another look at the numbers. I'm consciously conscious, I think is what you were trying to get to, of the fact that there is an alternative available on the market in CMed. And if we find ourselves in a position where the numbers are growing at an egregious rate, we can pull that trigger anytime. I'm satisfied with going with option A and maintaining things at the status quo. Because I think that's where things are shaking out in everybody's best interests. I'll leave that at there, but I would be comfortable with either of these options. I don't need to wait for some amorphous thing to happen later, but option A is fine with. Sarah?
This is a lot to process. I personally wouldn't be opposed to processing it and revisiting it at our next meeting, just because I want to make the right decision for public safety and the cost of the payers, because I can see pros and cons to each. And I'm not really comfortable making a decision on it tonight, because it's a lot to process, and I know tomorrow I'm gonna think of something that I have a question on, and I don't want to regret the way I vote on it.
So option A is status quo.
No, I understand that, but I just think there's opportunities and there's unknowns, and my head is spinning, and I personally would like a little more time to process it.
Great.
I think I said what I prefer, but I don't have a problem if we leave it status quo either, you know. I prefer the other option, but I don't have a problem.
So for budgetary purposes, let's take Keith's suggestion here. Let's put the 49 into the communications line, table this until our next meeting.
Right.
Sure.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so there's a couple of motions there. First, I'd ask to postpone discussion of 9E until our meeting on March 20th.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now let's take the budget from the floor, or from the table rather, and revisit our communications line, which we're gonna set at,
Make a motion to take the budget from the table.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? May I have a motion to set the dispatch Tolland communications line at 49,426?
What number is it on today?
It is under tab number?
No.
It would be,
It's the very top line under the police.
so we're gonna change that. 35, 49, 40.
49.
426.
Oh, you need a motion? Sorry, make a motion to, set the communications budget at 98,539.
Nope, nope.
Oh, you want to,
Communication, dispatch 49,426.
excuse me, make a motion to set the dispatch Tolland budget line at 49,426.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I just have a quick question. If we put that 49,426 in there, and then we go to option 2, we're gonna be over budget in that line, will we have time to adjust it?
The Board of Finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that new amount comes to what, 98,
98,539.
98,539?
Make a motion to set the communications budget at 98,539.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Keith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now that brings the overall budget on the town side. To, yep, so it is a budget of 178,821,138.
15 million.
17 million.
To say, we really cut the
I
road shit.
don't know, I was locked down in contract. 17,821,130. That does to the. That would be a 0.41 mil increase. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept the budget at 17,800. What was that number?
17,821,138.
138.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Sarah, how did you vote?
I voted in favor.
3-1. Okay, budget's done. Now. Julie Cortese here? Julie Cortese is not here, right? Okay. I'll do this quick. So we have a request for an alcohol exemption for an anniversary party to be held at East Windsor Park on May 24th. They have indicated that alcohol will be served. And that it's champagne and a BYOB event. The application has been signed off by the Parks Director, the Chief of Police, and the Fire Marshal. I need your permission to approve the waiver of the ordinance. If I know it, sure.
Yeah. You know, food. Allow alcohol at the park.
Well, champagne is wine.
Yeah, but bring your own beer, they can bring whatever the hell they want.
Oh, true.
Since it's so far out, maybe we should revisit this when she's able to attend.
I'll go with that.
But I would go back and double check that they were.
We could just tell her we're approving the beer and wine, that's it. But I'm also happy to revisit it.
Yeah.
Okay, so may I have a motion to postpone 9F?
Postpone 9.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Tax refunds.
Tax refunds totaling $1,889.97.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are refunded. Okay. Added agenda item 9H, discussion of sign placement. You'll recall that we have approved electronic signage for in front of the town hall annex and in front of this building. outside, and I'm gonna kind of explain like what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna take a break and go for a walk. But there is a mock-up of where the sign would be located, so you can see the sightline in terms of telephone poles and the monuments and the bend in the road that's there. The alternative to that is to place it on the building, which is effectively where the bottle cap art piece is now. Joe, is there anything you want to add on that before we take a recess and then go for a walk and then come back?
I don't think it being in the grass is a good idea. You'll see there's a sightline issue.
What issue? Oh,
Sightline.
Sightline issue?
Sightline issue.
Okay.
But that's my opinion.
We have the LTA here.
I was gonna say, are you, the
I don't
LTA?
know what's my title at this point? Just Joe? That's for Joe, the resident?
So putting it on the building, is it gonna be positioned differently? It's not just gonna be flat on the building?
It would be flat on the building.
Well,
Flat on the
Really
building.
turn it off.
I have to turn to see the sign?
Well, you-
Well, we have three options really. Where the display is now that he's mocked up, so we can take a look at it, on the side of the building or cancel the project. Those are, you're gonna see the parcel is limited. So let's take
But we're gonna put a sign down by the police station, right?
we are this.
And there's no issue with that one?
No,
There's
they have,
already one there. It'll go in the existing footprint.
our problem is the ideal spot for it is where the monuments are.
Yeah.
So may I ask for a 5-minute recess and then we can go take a look, come back and discuss it.
Make a motion for a 5-minute recess?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right, it's 10 after 9. I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen back to order. We're on discussion of the sign placements. Any opinions?
On the building is impossible with the pole and the monuments, and there's no way to look through that to see what's on the building as you're driving by, so that's not gonna be it. I don't think that's a good option. But
Oh.
I don't like either option.
I think either option is ideal, but I feel like the one closest to the road is better than the one on the building, because I feel unless you really turn your head to read it, you're not gonna know that it's there.
Let's see. Community center? Do we have the frontage there?
I vote.
that's,
Beautiful place for it.
that's on the, I mean, how are voters and people gonna know about town stuff? I mean, how many
That's
people?
the only downside.
It's unfortunate because,
And
yeah.
the lights could turn into an issue with
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No, that,
maybe option C's up. DPW, option D. Oh, D.
I mean, it's unfortunate because for voting
Yeah.
and things that people really need to know about, that was a lot of feedback that we received.
Okay, what about across the street?
we have discussed that, or
Okay.
said that.
Rubber Fire Department?
Do they have any frontage for that? I don't think so. That's not gonna be a sightline impediment?
There's already a sign there. Back. There's an island for the parking.
There is an island.
So let's,
I could put my temporary one there, but
why don't we, table this, I'll look at a couple of other things and see where things go.
I'm gonna just let you guys know this. That it will be awful hard, awful difficult. Well, maybe I could network it. Yeah, I could still network it there where we could still control it. So yes. And same thing with the police department, I can network it there so they're both the same.
That would be awesome.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I can do that. Well,
in the meantime, you can go ahead and start the one at the PD. No, why not?
because I need to order them both at the same time to maintain the better price.
Okay. So I need 2 more weeks then so that the board can get back together.
2 weeks is gonna make a difference with me.
Can I have a motion to postpone 9H until March 20th?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, selectmen's reports. I want to start off by offering congratulations again to now former Chief Tom Arcari. On February 23rd, a retirement party was held in his honor. And I just want to recognize that he led that organization, I believe, for 12 years and has almost 50 years as an active member of the department. Congratulations to him and thanks on behalf of the community, and best wishes to the new leadership team down there of Chief Bancroft, Assistant Chief Bancroft, and Deputy Chief LeMay. On February 25th, State Representative Jamie Foster and State Representative Carol Hall held a forum with several of their colleagues, Representative Brown from Vernon and Representative Khan from Windsor, to talk about pending legislation pertaining to special education mandates and funding. It was a very important and timely conversation, and it was nice to have that event hosted here in East Windsor. On February 26th, I was honored to welcome Tobacco Valley Gun to their new location at the old Stanton Equipment Building on Route 5. I've gotten to know the owners a bit over the last 6 months, and their dedication to their business and making sure that they're setting themselves up for success is really evident. On March 1st, begrudgingly, I participated in this year's Panther Plunge. Marie set the bar, and I couldn't allow that to go without company. This year they raised more than $18,000 amongst plungers, observers, and sponsors to support the East Windsor Fuel Bank. Thanks to all those who participated again this year. On March 4th, I was pleased to join the newly reconstituted Economic Development Commission as they starting a path forward for their work. I talked about opportunities and challenges that I see facing the town, and over the next several months, the commission will be working on making recommendations for tax abatement standards, and for formulating a plan to integrate tax increment financing into the town's economic development strategy. Once they're ready, both of those topics will come to the Board of Selectmen for discussion and deliberation. Yesterday, the Board of Education held a hearing to update the public as to where things stand on the school facilities improvement conversation. That's been going on now for several months, almost a year. I was glad to see some new faces from the public in attendance. Also later yesterday evening, Finance Director Amy O'Toole explained the process and limitations for funding major infrastructure initiatives like that. The next step is that the Board of Education is going to have to review their educational specifications that would ultimately be required if the project is going to become a reality. Today, it's been a very long day. I started my day with the East Windsor Chamber of Commerce. This is my third meeting today with Paul, incidentally. I started my day with the Chamber of Commerce and had another opportunity to share ideas and perspectives from an economic development and redevelopment perspective. There is, even amongst the folks who are there, I got the sense that there is growing interest in some of the positive things that are happening, and that are being contemplated in the community. Later today, after that meeting, I had the opportunity to welcome Crispy Crunchy Chicken as they open for business at In-N-Out Convenience on Depot Street, and we're wishing them many years of prosperity in our community. That's all I have. All right.
I have nothing. Take over Park Hill. I appreciate it. I don't foresee my situation changing.
Sorry to hear that. Sure.
Don't really have much to report. I've had a lot of obligations in the evening, in the past few weeks, but, Jason, I did attend the, forum last night with the Board of Education, and I serve on the ad hoc committee with Jason as well. And he highlighted where we stand currently in that process. So I have nothing further to add.
Keith.
Just that I attended the EDC meeting. That was a very productive meeting. It's nice to see it reconstituted. And Marie, I can cover for you for Park Hill if unless someone else wants to do it, and be happy to do that. Park Hill.
Al.
Yeah, so, planning and zoning had a public hearing regarding, the about 350 apartments right next to the highway, basically in Warehouse Point. It's actually, they're looking for a zoning change. And if they get that zoning change, then they would come back with an application for that apartment complex. I think it was, online, the map that people, that they have, that people were sharing online. But anyway, that was continued and it will be at the next meeting as well. So you might want to take a look at that. And then at wetlands, just had a couple small, agent decision stuff, nothing big going on there. That's it.
All right. Public participation, second opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. There is nobody online, so I'll only ask if there's people in the room who would like to address the board. If you would, please state your name and your address. Yes, sir.
James Martin, 108 Main Street, West Point. I just want to add my 2 cents on into this dispatching issue to give you guys some more things to think about. I've been pretty involved with this for the last 20 years. And when we first started out with Town County, we did switch over from the PD, we went to Town County. The ambulance had one ambulance, it was a volunteer ambulance. Fast forward, like he said, he's running 4 ambulances. They're all full-time paid staff now, part-time paid staff, whatever he's got down there. But the calls have increased. So what happens in the rest of Town and County is TN sends out a bill to the municipalities like Stafford Springs or Stafford, for instance. Stafford pays it, all the disciplines. There's 3 different departments. The municipality takes care of the costs. But what I want you to think about is, I know Marie brought it up, what if it goes up 5% next year? 5% on 90,000 is a lot less than hiring an additional dispatcher. You're putting 5,000 more calls into the PD. Not that they can't handle them, sure they could. But at times, they're gonna have a medical call, they're gonna have a car accident, they're gonna have a domestic and milk. Although I'm not in favor of the options that are on the table, option A is gonna provide the best service to our customer, and it's gonna provide the best deal to the taxpayer in the future. So I just want you guys to think about that.
Thank you, sir. Is there other public comment? Is there other public comment? Yes, sir.
I just said one thing for.
Name and address, please.
Steve Carl, 45.
Good answer.
So, anyways, when you have questions, did you forward them through to myself and I'll give them to, whether it's with the fire department, I'll put them in, we have just a conduit of communication, so that TN or them second and Hammond would call them. But whoever you want to speak to, we'll just set up your ability to get that call.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Is there other public comment? Seeing none, we will have an executive session. It will include only the members of the Board of Selectmen. There will be no action to follow. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Move that we go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are in executive session at 9:23. All right, it's 9:47. We're out of executive session, but no further business to come before the board. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Adjourn at 9:47 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Sarah, seconded by Marie. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 9:47.